Hello everybody, I am Benjamin Magnus, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different from what I normally do on the channel, and we're going to be starting a tutorial series on EU4. Now, please keep in mind that I'm not an expert on this game. I am at best a competent player, and I'm going to be showing you how I play it, so it's going to be very much affected by my own personal feelings on the game and how I like to play it. But I'm going to do my best to show you how everything works, go slowly, and just show you how to get started with this game, because it can be very overwhelming. And there's also the fact that the game changes about every 6 months. And I just went on YouTube and I looked, and the newest tutorial series that I could find that was any good was about 8 months old. So this tutorial series should have a little bit of life to it at least. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting as Poland. Now, there's a good reason we're going to be starting with Poland, and that's because that's where I started learning. So I figured it'd be a good place to go back to and start from. There's also the fact that Poland starts with an interregnum, which will allow me to show you some interesting aspects of the game. That basically means is that they are between regions, or between kings right now. There's nobody in charge of the nation when we start. And we are going to be starting in the November 11th, 1444 start. And as you can see, I have all DLCs enabled up to Mandate of Heaven. So we're just gonna, and I believe, hang on, I just want to check something real quick. We are, historical nations are set, lucky nations are historical, and the difficulty is set to hard. This is where I normally play on. So if the game is either very, like a lot harder than you expect, or a lot easier than you expect, you can always flip around with this, but I always leave this on hard. Before we get started with the actual gameplay, I'm just gonna try to give you a quick overview of the UI. I say I'm going to try to make it quick, but last time I tried to do one of these, the quick, and I'm using air quotes here, overview of the UI turned into like a 45-minute standalone episode. So this is your main game screen right here. You're obviously going to be working with a world map. Down in the lower right, we've got the map, and we've got buttons for different map modes. These will probably look different for you because you can customize them. You can, I believe, you can like double click on one of these. Let's see. Is it right click? Yeah, you can right click, add another map mode, and then pick which one you want to add onto there. So you can put your favorite buttons on the map mode: terrain, political, trade, imperial, religion, institution, state and territories, colonial and trade, rivals, culture, and then all the other ones are in the different panels here. These are the ones I just use the most often, so they're the ones I have in there. Holy Roman Empire, this is very important if you are playing in the Holy Roman Empire. An Imperial map mode will show that, so that's all of this area or anybody touching it. Right now, it's not going to be very much of a focus. Maybe I'll make a standalone Holy Roman Empire little tutorial episode so we can get into some more politics in here, but for now, we don't really need to pay too much attention for this, and this one either. We're Orthodox, I believe. We're kind of halfway between Orthodox and Catholic. There's a little bit of both in Poland, but this is the Catholic papal interface here. You can use papal points, which you gain slowly over time, to get boons from the church, or you can try to make yourself the next pope. Down here, we just have menu. That's this guy right here. The ledger, which gives you information about different aspects of the countries in the game. So, for instance, if you wanted to check someone's total manpower, you can go, oh, look, the Austria has the highest manpower in the game, or that I'm aware of. You can get all sorts of different information about your enemies, or just the world in large, by checking out the ledger. History is not something I use very much. It just shows you what's been happening in the game. And then triggered modifiers, again, you can, it's just a list of modifiers that can happen to your country to either get you positives or negatives. Like, say I piss off the Pope and he excommunicates me, it'll trigger this modifier, which will get me these debuffs, basically. And then find province, which I believe is F. Yeah, F on the keyboard. This is really helpful if you have a mission or something, and it's like, okay, I want you to colonize Sula, and you're like, okay, where the fuck is Sula? You can type it in. Oop, hang on. I gotta have the province select. You can type in Sula, and it'll show you, well, the actual province of Sula is like way over here in Terra Incognita and places I don't know, but it'll only show you ones you have actually explored. But it's really good if you need to find something and you don't know where it is. So over here, this is the outliner. This is pretty standard for all Paradox games. Right now, it shows me my diplomats, what my diplomats are doing, merchants are doing, what my armies are doing. If I had a navy, it would show me where it is. I have human players on just because I play a lot of multiplayer, and I have rebels on here. But what you can do is go through here and customize this to your liking, so you can see quickly which information you want to see. And that's about that. You can pop it in and out. I almost always leave it out. Up here we have time, pause, and then different times. We got 1, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5. But for now, we're just going to leave it paused on 1. Current date, score, which really isn't that important unless you're really just trying to get a high score. This little button opens up the music panel, so you can change out the music tracks and so on and so forth. Not terribly important. And this is a timeline of the history of the game. Again, not terribly important while you're playing unless you really want to see, you know, if you want to zoom out, put it on fast forward, and see what's going on in the game. Now, that's kind of the lesser important stuff. This stuff right up in here, this is why I kind of left it for last, why I did this section of the interface first, is where all of the really important information you are going to want is. So, we're going to start on this side and work our way back, because we've been kind of going this way. Right here is available missionaries. You use missionaries to convert provinces. This is available diplomats. This is these guys right here. It tells me how many I have total on all these guys, how many I have total, how many are free. Merchants. Oh no, these are colonists. I don't have any colonists. I don't think anybody starts with a colonist. Maybe Portugal. I know Norway can unlock one pretty early, but that's for setting up colonies in like the New World or off in Southeast Asia and like Australia, things like that. We don't have access to any of those yet. We're landlocked, so no way of getting there to begin with. And merchants. And we're probably going to do a standalone trade episode. This is probably going to be a standalone UI episode. But merchants, you can see we have our merchants right here in Kiev and the Baltic Sea. And if we pop open the trade map mode, you can... The trade map mode always threw me for a loop for the longest time. So we have one in the Baltic Sea, and we have one in Kiev. So you can see this little icon shows me that I have a trader, and this little check mark right here shows me that that trader is pushing as much trade as he can towards the Krakow node, which is me. And then up here I have someone who is collecting, I believe. Is collecting from trade, yeah. So, but trade is kind of complex. It took me a very long time before I got a full understanding of it, so we'll probably leave that for a later date. Power projection. Power projection is kind of like how powerful your nation is from people looking at you from the exterior. And you get that from having rivals, from fighting your rivals, from eclipsing rivals. Basically, just doing things that make you look more powerful to your enemy, or to the outside world more like it, gets you power projection. And you can see here that with the following effects, if you have at least 25 power projection, you gain leaders without upkeep, +1. That means you can have one more general or admiral before you take a penalty. And if you have more than 50, you gain extra monarch points. Monarch points are basically like currency. And we're going to go across here before we get that back there. Legitimacy. Legitimacy is just how legitimate you are, right? Your reign is. And this can go up and down by a number of factors. So as you can see, because I have a little bit of prestige, I get a little bit of legitimacy, but I'm also in a regency right now. I have no leader, and that makes the government very illegitimate from everybody's point of view. There's no legitimate leader, so we're losing legitimacy. Keeping this high is very important because it gives you a bunch of effects, as you can see listed right there. And that brings us to prestige, which is just how prestigious your nation is. You get that through winning battles. You can get that through mostly war. Events can affect it. But as you can see, base wants to decline out. It kind of want to average itself out to a low number. So if you have really low prestige, it'll try to get you to 0 pretty quickly. And if you have very high prestige, it'll kind of decline out pretty quickly. Again, very important to try to keep this as high as possible. Corruption. Corruption is basically exactly what it sounds like. If you have corrupt officials in your country, it costs you. It costs you. This, if you go to the... So this button right here opens up your main country interface. And if you go to the economic tab, there's a slider here that says you're rooting out corruption. I usually leave this all the way up the top. You gain corruption through events mostly. You can click on this button right here, debase your currency. So if you really need an influx of cash really fast, you can debase your currency. It'll give you 2 points of corruption, but you'll get a quick influx of money. And corruption makes anything you need to buy with power points cost more. So it can be pretty bad if you get your corruption really high. And you can put this slider all the way down to 0, and nobody will touch your corruption, but then you get a little notifier saying your corruption's going up. Generally, you want to keep that at 0. So unless I'm in dire economic straits, I leave my corruption slider all the way up so that it tries to balance it out to 0. And as you can see, it costs a little bit of money to keep the corruption down. Stability. Stability is an important concept in the game. It's basically how stable your country is. And it has a range of +3 to -3. So there's 7 states it could be in. -3, -2, -1, 0, +1, +2, +3. And you can actually see that more in depth right here, stability and expansion. So right over here, you can see your stability. And if you hover over anything, you get contextual menus that show you exactly what they do. Gives you a lot of bonuses and things like that. So right now I have a stability of 0. Right there you can see each level of negative stability has the following effects: national unrest +2, interest per annum +1, yearly legitimacy down, caravan power down. So basically it makes your country more prone to revolt. Your legitimacy starts going down, which we've been over already. You want to keep that high. Interest per annum means if you have any loans out, that you're going to be paying more interest on those loans, so it's going to hurt your economy. Caravan power is moving trade from one node to another across land routes, like Kiev to Krakow. So you want to keep this as high as possible. And right now the button's grayed out because I don't have enough power points. It says right here you need 121. I have 70 available, so that's admin power. I can't boost it. A lot of events will affect stability. Doing things like breaking truces or alliances, or there's a couple other things that'll generally lower your stability. There's not much you can do to raise it other than just hitting boost or getting positive events, but this is very important to keep high as possible. Generally, I like to keep it at about +1. That way, I have a little bit of wiggle room to work with both ways. So that was stability. Sailors, it's pretty straightforward. How many sailors you have available to stock ships, basically. I have 0. I have no coastal provinces, so I have no sailors. Manpower is the same as sailors. It's how many men of fighting age and health you have in reserve. So there's a maximum. Maximum I have is 21,519. I have a gain of 188 per month. So once that gets to up to about 21,500, then it caps out. But it'll keep raising up till then. And you use those to reinforce your armies or to build new regiments for your armies. And finally, we have ducats. Ducats just is gold, dollars, doubloons, sestertii, whatever you want to call them. This is your currency in the game. There are ducats in here, and that's what we're going to go with right now. I have a treasury of 182 and a base gain of 6.7 ducats per month. And you get a little breakdown of where that's coming from in the contextual menu. I really hope you can't hear my Roomba in the background because it keeps wanting to come into my office. So I keep going out into the hallway and kicking it back into the living room. But anyhow, that is the basic overview of the UI here. There's a couple more buttons we'll hit, but we went over all of the information. Well, no, we didn't. We didn't go over all the information. Admin power, Diplo power, and military power. These are kind of the most important type of currency in the game. You have your ducats, you have your actual money, but then you have power points too. Use your power points for a lot of things. We actually went over one of those just now, like boosting your stability. You can use some of your admin points to boost your stability. And you can see it gives you a breakdown of where you're getting it from. Everybody has a base of 3, so 3, 3, 3. And then you give a monthly increase of, is your total. So right now, because I have a focus, it's going, I get -1 here, -1 here, and +2 here. The focuses can be seen right here. But again, we're going to go over all this in this video. Production interface. This is rather important. A lot of people use this very often. You can use it to build military units. So if I want to build infantry, I can click on the land units, then infantry, then pop them out. And also build mercenaries. Mercenaries are an important concept to wrap your head around. In a nutshell, basically, mercenaries are troops you pay more money for, but they don't come out of your personal manpower pool. So as you can see, they cost way more money. Naval units, none available. Coring, that's something that is that's an important concept to go over later. It's basically when you take land for some reason. If I snatch land from somebody in war, and we'll go over this probably in a war episode, you have to core it. You basically have to say this land now belongs to me, and you use admin points to do that. Missionaries. So as you can see, I have several Orthodox provinces that I can send my missionary out to, but I'm not going to actually be able to convert these people at all. If I had enough basically missionary points or power or percentage, however you want to say it, this would show me a number and how many months. So that's probably something we'll show later too. Autonomy. Autonomy is an important well, basically everything is an important concept, so I can stop saying that. Autonomy let's actually go to a provincial interface here. Local autonomy is right there. So the higher the autonomy, the less prone they are to rebel, but also the less they'll provide you. So a county or province with 100% autonomy will basically give you nothing. They will send you no men. They will send you no taxes, but they will also be less likely to rebel. So a way to reduce unrest would be to increase their autonomy, but it takes a long time to decay out. So generally, you want to avoid doing that if at all possible. Oh, production, that's where we were. Change culture. You can use this to change a county's culture, but I have all good cultures in here, or cultures that I cannot change. So there's nothing there. Buildings. This is all the buildings you have available to you. Red is obviously stuff I don't have available to me that hasn't been unlocked through technologies yet, but they're all in here. So trade buildings, government buildings, production, tax, navy, army, defensive structures. So I could build castles if I had well, no, I don't have enough money. I'm a little short on that. Manufactories, all this stuff will unlock with technology over time. Development. Development is another way you could use PowerPoints. You could develop your country, either admin, which increases tax. You can do Diplo, which increases production, or military, which increases manpower. But we don't need to do any of that right now. It's not something we need to go over in too much depth. Basically, a really high dev province like Krakow here is worth a lot. Because it provides more, let's get it. It'll provide more taxes, more production, more manpower, because it's been developed a lot. So you could you could take like a really low dev. Let's try to find a low dev province. I have all pretty good ones. See, so you could take like a low dev province like this 7. You can hit this button here. These are grayed out because I don't have enough points. You can develop it into a city if you want to, but that's something we could go over later in more depth. Estates is a concept that was introduced in Art of War, maybe, or Cossacks, I think it was. Cossacks introduced estates, and it's basically like subsets of your population that want control. And if they don't have enough control over enough land, they get a little bit pissy. So the Brugers, the clergy, the Cossacks, and the Schlacha. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I am a terrible, terrible Pole. I'm like a 3rd generation in America Pole, so my Polish is generally relegated to cursing. But say, like, the clergy wanted control of more land. I could click on them and then click on a province, and it would grant them that land. And this is the Diplo Macro Builder. This is... Oh, there's the Roomba, hang on. This one is a new addition as of Mandate of Heaven, and it's basically a way to auto-tell your diplomats to do things. So, if I wanted to tell this is actually a really good chance to show this. I have several, I have two puppets right now. Well, I have a puppet and a march is just a militant puppet, basically. I have Mazovia and Moldavia down here. They both answer to me. So I could tell one of my diplomats to improve relations with my own subject countries, or do neighbors, outrage countries, allies, threatening countries, and that's basically how it works for this whole thing. It just shows you people who you could do things with easily, and it's just a way to easily see what countries will do for you at a moment's notice. And great powers. This button just shows you the list of the 8 greatest powers in the world, and then where you stand on the list. And there I am right down there, just a little bit below Castile. So Poland starts out in a pretty good position. Not super, super powerful, but in a good position to grow into the future. Now, I really want to start playing, but there's a lot more UI stuff, and considering this is turning into easily a 30-minute overview, I think that's what we'll just go over the main country interface, and then we'll call it a UI overview episode. Then we'll get into some actual gameplay. So, clicking on this, or if you have any country selected, you can click on their like emblem, and it'll bring you to them and show information about them. But we're going to be focusing on Poland for now. So court, this shows you your king, your heir, and your consort, and it'd be like your wife or something like that. And how much power points or any attributes they have. As I'm in an interregnum, I have nothing. You also have any possible advisors, and this is your power point gain per month. And because there's a check mark on this little box right there, that shows that we're focusing on admin, which means, hey, I really want some more admin points. And what it does is, clicking on a focus gives you +2, but takes -1 away from the other one. So we're getting more admin at the cost of Diplo and military. And if you click on these buttons, you can recruit advisors. And what you could do is, let's say, look at our admin ones right here. It'll show you how many extra power points they'll give you. So having these guys is really, really important. Actually, we can afford to get some advisors. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to take the national unrest -2. That'll make people less likely to revolt. It'll cost me 1 ducat per month and 16 up front. So I will take him. And as you can see, our admin went up by 1. And I'm going to do this for these two. It's exponentially more expensive to get from a +1 to a +2 and a +2 to a +3, which I can't see right now. So you usually want to stick with +1s early on. So I have 2 +1s available: national manpower modifier +10%, or land force limit modifier. I'm just going to say manpower modifier. That'll increase my maximum. Land force limit. No. I think we'll take land force limit. That'll allow me to field more regiments without taking a penalty. So we had 522 and went up to 633. Next is government. This is just general information about the government of your country. The bottom half is about cultures. And you can see my country is 79% ethnically Polish and 20% Ruthenian. And if a large, minority, if a minority gets a large enough, culture percentage in your country, you can click this button and make them accepted, which will basically make them produce more. So you can see right here, because this is not an accepted culture in Poland, it gives unrest, less manpower, less taxes. They're less likely to be acceptable to missionaries. So having accepted cultures is definitely a good thing. But let's get back to it. Any modifiers your country have right here. It'll tell you what rank you are. So it's duchy, kingdom, or empire, and any modifiers for that rank, and what you get for having this particular type of government. If you want to change your government, you can click this button right here. Some countries can, some countries cannot. Some have to do it through events. Some can do it through unlocking tech and stuff like that. So basically, as you go down the list, it gets better and better and better. But I'm stuck with feudal monarchy right now because I don't have enough admin points, and I don't think I have enough tech to do that either. And then you can upgrade your rank if you get big enough. So right now I'm a king. If I want to upgrade to emperor, I need at least 1,000 total development. And development was what we were talking about before. These numbers right here, total development of a province. I need to get 1,000 development. I have 181. That's this button right here. 181, and you need at least 75 prestige. So you need to be very large and very prestigious before you could be an emperor. Diplomacy, you'll spend a lot of time on here. This is just how you interact with other countries. And there's not a lot to go over here. It'll give you information about your country right here. This is, what tech levels you are. So if I want to check Lithuania's tech level, or say Muscovy's tech level, or the Ottomans' tech level, I can see it in here. Different things about them, like their promoted cultures and prestige. Just basic information about a country that you have clicked on. And then you can see who they count as enemies, who their rivals. And actually, this is a button where you can use to select rivals, which is what I'm going to have to do once we actually start playing, but UI stuff right now. And then this is just a list of treaties and stuff like that. So I have a truce with the Ottomans until 1450. I start the game like that. Moldavia is my March. Mazovia is my vassal. Conditional military access for those two, and conditional military access through those two. But this will definitely fill out, and it'll show you all sorts of information about different countries. So if I click on a different country, you can see, like, so Hungary has truces with the Ottomans, with Bohemia, and with Brandenburg. So that's the diplomacy button. Economy. This is, again, a very important one. You don't spend a lot of time on it, but there is some important information on it. So this is a breakdown of where your money's coming from, a breakdown of where your money is going, and you have sliders. So colonial maintenance is for when you are making colonies. Missionary maintenance is for when you are converting provinces. Those are both at 0 because I'm doing neither. Corruption we showed before. You gain corruption through a few different things. Like I'm gaining corruption right now because I have religious like disharmony in my country. A little bit of corruption because I'm part Orthodox, part Catholic. But we're spending 0.16 ducats a month to keep that corruption down. Army maintenance. This one is one you'll generally slide around a lot. I'm actually going to drop this down to 0 right now. It's basically if your army is standing down or ready for action, or you can put it somewhere in the middle if you want, if you're a little wary about an enemy nation. So when your army is at 0 maintenance, they will have no morale and cannot engage in combat. If someone attacks them, they'll immediately break, and they might all get wiped. You might get a stack wipe where they all die instead of retreating out. When you go to war, you're going to want to generally put this up before you go to war because it takes a couple months for the morale, which is this little green bar, to go up. But for now, because we're not at war and we're not going to war right now, we'll keep it down and we'll save the money. And fleet maintenance is the same as army maintenance, only with ships. I have no ships. There's a couple more buttons down at the bottom here. This is a bar graph of your inflation, breakdown of inflation, war exhaustion, and total development of your nation. I'm not sure why this one's here. They just had to throw it in somewhere, so they put your development right there. There's a couple buttons. You can spend some military points to raise war taxes, which will save you money during wartime. You can spend some admin points to lower your inflation manually, or you can declare bankruptcy. Declaring bankruptcy basically wipes out all of your debts, but plunges your country into like a state of chaos for like 5 years. You can't really do much. You can't tech up. Well, you can tech up, but it's like 100% penalty on 50 or 100%. I don't know. I've only used bankruptcy once. But everything costs more. You basically just have to sit there and wait and be a good boy until the 5-year period is elapsed. But it gets rid of all of your loans. Oh, you lose I think you lose 300 points. 100, 100, and 100. You lose a lot of stuff. It's harsh. This is where you can take out loans. Now, if you go into the negative, the game auto takes out 1 loan for you, or at least however many loans it needs to get you to a positive number. And then you can pay back loans, pay back all loans, and debase currency. If you go to war a lot, you'll probably be in debt a lot. And it'll actually, if you have a bunch of loans, you'll actually see how much money you're paying on interest in them. Trade map mode. So this is trade map mode. This is the trade button. It's mostly just information, and you can use these buttons to send your merchants to different provinces. Not too much information on here. You can use this button to promote mercantilism or mercantilism, however you choose to pronounce it, which basically just makes you a more efficient trader. Technology. Technology is very important. As you accrue power points, you'll see this bar filling up, and then once it's filled up, you can click on this button. It's grayed out right now because we don't have enough points. And it will tech you up. And this goes up to 32, I believe. I think there's 32 techs. But it'll show you what you'll unlock and any modifiers that you'll get through the technologies that you have. So, like, if you next time I upgrade militarily, I gain base morale of 0.5, so my men have more morale, and military tactics, which is a very, very, very important figure when you're fighting anybody. If someone has more military tactics than you, basically means they're more effective at fighting, and you will be at a severe disadvantage. But that's the... oh, you know, there's one more button here. Institutions have been shoved into... Sorry about that. Institutions have been shoved into the tech interface here. Institutions hit every 50 years. So 14... Was one hit in 1450? The Renaissance hits in 1450, and then colonialism, printing press, global trade, manufactories, and enlightenment. So every 50 years in the game, a new institution hits. And I don't think we'll go over institutions in too much depth right now. It gives you all the information you need about them in here. So right here it shows you, if you hover over, what needs to happen for it to hit. It tells you what the modifiers you'll get for embracing it is. And if, say, in 1450 when the Renaissance hits, what'll happen is the Renaissance will slowly spread through modifiers to from province to province to province. And when it gets to me, what I can do is I can embrace it once more than 10% of my provinces have the institution. I can click embrace, and then I have that institution, and I get the boon from having it. Ideas are unlocked through admin tech. I think, let's see, right here. So the first one comes at level 5. We're at level 3, so 2 techs, and we'll get our first idea. Ideas are extremely important in the game. Ideas are countrywide modifiers, and I'm not going to go over all these ideas because you can look at them yourself. Just hover over them, and it'll show you what they do. But what you do is you spend power points, so admin for admin, diplo for diplo, and military for military to get the various boons. I believe it's 400 points base to unlock each one of these, and then when you get to the end, you get a little bonus one. And that's basically what it is. It's just countrywide modifiers. And then for every 3 of these you unlock, so 1, 2, 3, every time you unlock 3 little ideas, you get a country idea too, so Polish ideas. So 3 here, I'll unlock this one, then 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and 21. And then once you do that, it also unlocks Polish tradition. So cav cost, well, you start with cav cost and max promoted cultures, and then when I get to the last one, I get tolerance of heretics. So heretics in my country are more tolerated, which means less unrest from them. Missions and decisions. You can have one mission active at all time. And so, let's see, get access through the sea through Stolp, solidify papal relations. That one's really easy. So it tells me all I need to do is the Pope needs to have relations of me, or the Pope's opinion of me needs to be 100. And if I complete it, I get more papal influence. So why don't we go ahead and take that one right now. And then what we can do is we can work on it by going to the Pope. Click on the Diplomacy tab and saying, hey, Pope, let's see, relations. Hey, let's have good relations. So one of my diplomats will go over there and improve my relations with the Pope. And then when that's complete, I will get the boon from it. I'll get the reward, and then it'll let me pick another one. Policies. I don't have access to any policies. That's linked to ideas. When you have certain sets of idea groups unlocked, then you can add policies on. They cost power points, and they give you country modifiers. And decisions. Decisions are pretty easy. All you need to do is hover over, and it'll show you what you need to unlock them. And when you click on this button, you get it. So if I passed the Advancements of Religion Act, I would get to the end of the game. My missionaries would be stronger, but I would gain a little bit of unrest. So why don't we go ahead and accept that? So now we have that country modifier, which you could see in the Government tab. Advancement of True Religion Act. Very cool. We hit the Stability and Expansion tab once. War exhaustion. It's exactly how it sounds. How exhausted your population is from being at war. It base ticks down at peace. It base ticks up at war. And as it gets higher, you get country modifiers that gets progressively worse. Mostly unrest and things like that. Stability we went over. States and territories. So I have 12 possible states. I have 5 states and 0 territories. And you can see that right here. So that's a state, that's a state, that's a state. Not really an important concept right now. So it's really not a huge concept unless you're just making absolutely massive, massive countries. Overextension, if you have non-cored land, so land that you've taken but haven't really claimed as your own, you haven't cored it, you get overextension, which again is stacking country modifiers, which gives you unrest and things like that. Colonial range, colonial growth, we're not doing colonies right now, and then rebel information. Oh, and disasters. If you have any disasters, hover over them, and it'll show you what needs to happen for them to trip and what needs to happen for them to go away. Disasters are very bad. We have a religion tab right here, what religion we are. If you can convert, it'll show you right here. Tolerance is basically a unrest modifier, so any Catholics in my empire will have less unrest because we are tolerant of them. Any heretics will have more unrest because we are not tolerant of them. And then you can see your bases right there and breakdowns. Papal influence, that's for basically buying boons from the Pope. Reform desire, that is how Basically, this is how likely the Protestant Reformation is to hit. That's just another button to go to the Pope view. Defender of the Faith, you can see right here. If you have enough gold and you want to be it, you want to take Defender of the Faith, you can click this button. But it means that you are called into religious wars. So you might end up in war. You get some boons, but you might end up in wars that you don't want to fight. And then this is where you can send out missionaries. Military tab. This is mostly just information. This button right here mothballs all forts. This button right here activates all forts, and these little icons are forts. There's 3. 1, 2, 3. They cost maintenance, so if you're not at war, it's a good idea to mothball them because it saves you a little bit of money. And then when you go to war, or before you go to war, you might want to activate the forts because it takes a little bit of time for the garrison to rise up, to kind of come in from the fields. This is basically just information about your military, right down here. So like my army tradition, army morale, force limit. So I have 21 regiments in the field, 11 plus 10. I can field a total of 32. If you go over that, you basically start paying extra for having them in the field. So you can go over your limit. It's just it costs a lot of money. And then naval information, all sorts of information for your military. Mostly just information. These buttons right here you can click on to change what kind of units you have. Mostly that's just when you tech up. It unlocks new types of units. And then you can actually activate them by clicking here and then grabbing them. Subject interactions. This is just for talking to your subjects. If you don't have any subjects, there's no information here. But this one shows me that Moldavia has an opinion of 30 of me. Mazovia has 75. Mazovia sends me half a ducat per month. This is their liberty desire. If this gets above 50%, then other nations can support their claim to independence, and they can fight you for that independence. And when you click on them, you have a contextual menu that shows you things you can do with your subjects. And again, all this stuff you can hover over, shows you exactly what it does. And it's all pretty self-explanatory. Pay off debts, enforce religion, enable scutage. That maybe not is self-explanatory, but all the tooltips are there. And estates. We kind of went over this before over here. I explained what estates are, but this is actually estate interactions. This is modifiers that the states are giving you. So these guys are all pretty happy, so they give me nice little positive boons. If they get unhappy, if their influence goes, or their loyalty and influence goes down, these will be negatives. And you can click on this button right here, this button here, and this button here to get different estate-based boons. So, like if I can pay 5 prestige to make this is like the Polish Senate more loyal. And you can get a general from that. You can ask for military power points, and the same thing. It's all, this is basically admin, this is Diplo stuff, and this is military stuff. Right now, we're not going to use any of these because this is just a UI overview, but we're just about, I think we just about are. Oh wow, yeah. Took longer than I expected, but we went over pretty much all the UI stuff. I didn't go over everything in super great detail because a lot of things are either pretty self-explanatory based on what they are called, or you just hover over them and you get contextual information about them. And the last thing I'm going to show you is these little buttons. Whenever there's information that the game thinks is pertinent to you, it'll show you a button up here, and generally what you could do is click on them, and it'll take you exactly where you need to go to interact with whatever will fix that situation. So right here, it's saying I don't have enough political rivals, so it takes me to the Diplo screen, and I could click on these to grab myself some rivals. This shows me I have a little bit of provincial unrest. 2 is not that high, not really something I need to worry about. If you're looking at 8, 10, 20, those are really high levels where you're going to need to deal with your rebels in some way. Truces will expire, so this is telling me my truce with it will expire with the Ottomans in the beginning of 1450, so 6 more years. And this is telling me, this is a list of countries that have disputed successions. This is kind of more of an advanced game concept. There's like a personal union, that's the word for it, personal union. You can send, like you can send royal marriages out to other countries, and then if you have your if like they have their their king dies and there's no heir and you're married into that family, then they can fall under a personal union with you. But if they have royal marriages with other people, multiple people can have potential personal unions with that country, and oftentimes it'll lead to war. So like if me and Austria both had marriage ties to England and he died, then me and Austria might fight over control over the throne to England, things like that. Real quick 2-minute overview of the county interface here. This is mostly information that only pertains to this county, like tax information, military information, or trade information, like its trade power, how much your total manpower comes from here, or information that could be found elsewhere, like religious information. Like you could click this button to convert a province, like over here. If we go to one of our Orthodox province, we can click there and it shows me information about missionaries. Again, all information that can be found in here. There is also institution information, which is more important once institution is popped, and you can also build from here, which can also be done through this one right here, this menu right here. So it's mostly information that you can either find elsewhere or is just condensed here to make it easy to work with. And then there's state information, and the biggest thing to worry about with the state tab here is the edicts. It's just state modifiers that you pay double the maintenance from. So this is the maintenance for this state. I can click on one of these to get more trade power, more unrest or less unrest, development cost if I'm really developing a province through using these buttons. Can all be found in the state map mode or the state contextual menu here. But again, that's more information for like not mid to late game, but more like average to advanced users. I know a lot of people who just forget about this and then never touch it and never really touch it. But thanks for watching, everybody. There'll be more actual gameplay in the next video. This has been more of an episode 0 UI overview. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.